Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to the BFS Fishing channel. And in this video, we're going to be doing a teardown of the KingFisher or Qingyu FF01. Now again, this reel was given to me free for review by nacoshop.com, and so if you're interested in purchasing one, you can go ahead and navigate over to nacoshop.com and pick one up. I don't know what their stock is like, but I think it kind of fluctuates. Anyways, with that being said, you will see a lot more videos of this reel out in the wild, and that's for a very good reason. And that's because this reel is actually quite phenomenal for the price they're asking. Now, I do wish that they kind of lowered the introductory price a little bit more so that more people would have the ability to kind of step into the reel and kind of vet it out for themselves. But in any case, that's not what this video is about. This video is about a teardown of this reel. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started with the teardown, and yeah, we'll go from there. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a look at the handle knobs, because we want to check and make sure that the handle knobs have bearings in them. And so let's go ahead and use our Phillips and take off one of these handle knobs. These handle knobs are very, very unique. They're kind of a TPU overmolded onto a plastic handle, and it does appear that there are bearings inside. So let's go ahead and take a look. And if you watch the first video that I made on this reel, you'll remember that I said, so if you remember from my other video, the first video that I made about this reel, you'll recall that I said that this reel was well shimmed. One of the knobs just had a tiny bit of slop, and then you can see right there that there is actually a shim indeed, and they are quite heavily greased. And then we'll go ahead and get a measurement on the handle knob bearings, and let me go ahead and turn on my caliper. So it's going to be a 7mm outer diameter. I'm assuming that this is going to be a standard traditional 4x7x2.5, and this is a 3.77 on the inner diameter, so it is a 4, and then we'll see if this is a 2.5mm thick, and it is a 2.5mm thick bearing. So this is going to be a 4x7x2.5 bearing. It is a very standard size for bearings, and we're just going to go ahead and put that shim back in there. We'll push the bearing back down to the handle knob, and then we'll call it a day on that. So pretty good to see already that there are bearings in the handle knob. Okay, so let's go ahead and remove the retainer clip for the handle. And interestingly enough, Qingyu or KingFisher has gone ahead and stamped the gear ratio of the reel on this retainer clip. So I don't know if you see there, it says 8.2, which is kind of nice. It's a little bit subtle, but you know, the marking is still there. So there's that. This is a left-handed reel, so we're going to go opposite. So righty loosey. Go ahead and remove this handle bolt. Quite long. I like that it's anodized. It's very nice looking. All right, so let's go ahead and remove the carbon fiber handle, and we'll set this aside so it doesn't take up too much space. And this is a very unique looking, I'm gonna go ahead and set the reel down, but a pretty unique looking star drag system. So there is a washer, a keyed washer on top, and then it looks like this clicker assembly is actually inside of the star drag itself. It's held all together by this little clip right here. So I don't know if you guys see that. If you look underneath, you can actually see inside that there's little tiny indentations, and so likely this is going to be a ball and spring style clicker for the star drag. I did kind of note that the clicking mechanism for this is a little bit on the muted side, and it feels like the spring is not super strong because the clicking sound kind of fades off as you click it. It's not as like crisp and precise as some other reels out there on the market, but you know, you don't really need a super loud star drag. Okay, or a star clicker. Let's go ahead and remove the spring nut, and underneath it is coming a flat washer with it. So keep that in mind. There's a flat washer under that retaining nut. And then you've got your 2 spring washers, which are opposed. I'm not sure if you guys can see that, but they are opposed there. So go ahead and set those down. And then we have 1 washer left over. I'm going to go ahead and use my tweezers. Where are they? My forceps to get this off, or see if I can get this off. Now, I will say the machining on this main shaft is quite good. I mean, there's no... Usually on CDM reels, I'll notice that there's like a little bit of leftover material from when they cut the threads. But this one is very clean, and the threads look really, really crisp. So, really good job on that. And as I'm rotating the main shaft, it feels quite smooth. Okay, so... let's go ahead and get into the side plate and the spool, because we've gone ahead and removed all of the handle assembly. And again, this is a MagTrack style braking system. It has 8 total magnets. It does have 2 foam inserts where you could potentially add new magnets, and you can also remove. And then I was speaking with Paul Gaskell, and he said that there's little dots on there to denote the polarity of the magnets, which is kind of a nice touch. You don't really see that on other reels. So I don't know if you guys can see that, but there is a little dot punched on some of these magnets. And I don't know whether that's a south or a north pole, but you know to kind of make the opposite orientation for the magnet next to it. I did not take out the side plate bearing, so let's go ahead and take that out and see what size that is. So I'll go ahead and remove the retainer clip and then grab my bearing removal tool. And it does not look like there are any shims on this bearing, so that's interesting. Well, not interesting, but yeah, the tender shoot oddly did, which is, I guess, a good thing. But anyways, the outer diameter of this bearing is going to be a 10, and then the inner diameter of this bearing is going to be a 2.81, so it's going to be essentially a 3, and the width is going to come in at approximately 4. So it is a 10 by 3 by 4. So I think that's also a standard size for side plate bearings. So we're just going to go ahead and push this back in, and actually in the bottom, I don't know if you guys noticed, but this is what I was afraid of, is that these magnets, even though they're removable, which is kind of nice, is that they stick to everything in here. And now I'm going to have to reorient these magnets. So give me 1 second while I do that. All right. So that's correct. Okay, so there is a anti-friction material on the bottom and the very inner recess of the side plate, and I'm going to go ahead and stick this bearing back in. So it means that you can actually pick up potentially a row bearing to replace these side plate bearing. And if I'm not mistaken, Paul also said that actually this bearing is also replaceable as well. So if you guys are interested in that, I think he's going to be doing some more videos on the FF01 and then showing how to actually go ahead and do that. So go ahead and head over to his channel and look out for those videos. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and start getting into the reel itself. I'm going to go ahead and remove the spool tension cap, and there is a anti-friction bottom plate there. This is a shaftless spool, so there's going to be a spool tension shaft, which we can go ahead and remove. And we'll set this aside here. I've had a little bit too much coffee today, so I'm shaking a little bit. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and get into the side plate now. I did want to show you guys and point out here that there is that really nice window where you can kind of check and see and actually remove if you want to go ahead and lubricate your main gear from the bottom. I don't believe that this is holding on to anything, but we'll go ahead and remove it, and I'll just open it up and show you guys. So all of these look like they're Phillips, and I am not sure if there are any sizes. And so we'll go ahead and start from the front, and we'll work our way clockwise around. So this plate is actually removable, and I'll go ahead and set that down, and then you can look down into the actual reel itself, which is pretty nifty. The other reels, they do have these maintenance windows, but I don't know actually how to access those, because you have to do it from the inside, which is very odd to me. But anyways, okay, so there's another screw, and these two look exactly the same, which is nice to see because it makes it easier. And then we're going to go ahead and depress the clutch button, and you know, before I take that one out, I'm going to try to do it without taking that out and see if the side plate will come off, because it may actually work with the clutch button. Okay, so this screw on the top is a little bit different from these two, so keep that in mind. And let's see, will this pop off now? Nope. Okay, so it does appear that this clutch button screw may actually help to retain and hold on to the side plate. And so let's see if I can't. Okay, so you do have to access this screw unless you want to do it from the side like this, side like that. There is a hole to access it from, so your screwdriver needs to be small enough in diameter in order to actually access this last, or this screw, not this last screw. And this is definitely a different size as well, because it is much smaller than the others, the other four. And that will release the side plate. So now let's go ahead and get into the reel itself. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and sit this down. And we'll go ahead and turn over the side plate. Take out the main shaft sleeve. And yeah, this is definitely a carbon side plate. You can definitely see all of the fibers, and if you hear, when I scratch it, you can hear the carbon fibers in there. And then the main shaft bearing, or handle bearing, just fell out, and that's fine. That sits right there. And the greasing doesn't look too bad. There is a little bit on the side, on the inside, so I'm gonna just go ahead and wipe that up. But everything looks quite impressive. I mean, it looks well machined. There's no, over molding or any overspraying. Very little. I think there's just a tad right here, but that's not a big deal at all. It does not affect the performance. I like that the anti-reverse bearing feels like it is press fit in there and very secure. That will help to reduce any kind of slop in the handle, depending on the tolerances of the bearing. And then they do obviously have a spool tension bearing itself there. Okay, so let's look at the internals of the reel. And so I'm just going to go ahead and remove the pinion and clutch. Go ahead and set this down on the side. So nothing out of the ordinary with this yoke. Now let's take a look at the pinion itself. It looks very well machined and very well cut. I don't see anything unusual with it. And I don't know if you guys want to get a closer look at this, but here you go. Not too much grease as well, which I really like to see that, because you don't really need to over grease your reels. And then let's take off the main gear itself so we can take a look. It wants to come off. There we go. All right, so here's the main gear. Let's go ahead and take off this friction plate. And indeed, we have a carbon text drag washer underneath. And then we remove that. It doesn't look like it's very well greased and that there's a little bit of dust under there, but I'm gonna go ahead and clean that up. Now, if you grease your drag washers, that should help to alleviate any of that kind of dust buildup. And then that dust buildup won't really have a... it'll take longer for it to migrate over to main gear teeth and then kind of wear those down. But everything on this main gear looks very well cut, very precise. It is aluminum. It is fairly light. Okay, continuing on with the teardown, we're going to go ahead and remove the reverse ratchet, and there is another Carbon Tex drag washer, which is also not greased very well, if at all. There's a little bit, but you can see that there's dust on it. I'm going to clean that up later, and then we're going to go ahead and take a look at what's underneath this main shaft assembly. So let's go ahead and take that apart. It's just two little Phillips screws that are very easily accessible. So far, I like what I'm seeing on the internals. Everything is really easy to get to. You know, there's not little window holes which you have to get to. It's not excessively over greased, which is also great to see. If you are planning on using this reel for salt, I would suggest that you do over grease it though. So two Phillips screws, and then hopefully this will come out free and clear, or maybe not. Yeah, maybe not. Oh, there we go. We have to kind of rotate it a bit. It looks like there's actually a plate there. I don't know if you guys can see that, but there is this little plate that kind of goes and hides underneath the worm shaft gear. And so I believe we're going to have to take out the worm shaft gear in order to get to this main gear assembly. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. And I'm going to use my my little security bit. So bear with me while I get that. Okay, got the security bit, and let's go ahead and see if we can't push this little C-clip off that's on the worm gear right there. It is quite small. And if this doesn't work, then I'm gonna have to find another method to do this, but I actually may. Well, let's see. Oh, I think I got it. Yeah, I was able to get the C-clip off. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and set that down right here. Oops. Everything wants to stick to magnets. Or is so greased that it wants to stick to your gloves. Okay, so hopefully now the worm gear will come off, and it did indeed. So it's right there. It does have a directionality to it. There is a little bit of a lip on the bottom. So we'll go ahead and set that down. And now we can go ahead and remove the main shaft assembly. So let's go ahead and take that off. And indeed, there is a bearing underneath and a plate that helps to secure everything. So I'm going to go ahead and set this down here. I'm going to wipe up some of this grease. And a little bit excess grease is not bad. Just don't like it when companies, you know, absolutely glob grease everywhere. There's a little bit right here as well, so maybe I can scoop some of that up. Okay. All right, so now let's go ahead and take off this front cover and see what we can see in terms of the worm shaft. Now, I did notice that there were some really cool things about this worm shaft and also the line guide. I don't know if they're actually going to do much of anything, but it is pretty cool to see that this company is giving some attention to detail and trying to, you know, make improvements. And oh, interesting. Okay, so there is a shaft here that comes with the front nose piece, and I think it's, I don't want to break it, but I think you have to just kind of take it off by, that is an interesting design. So it's like a tension clip. The front nose piece is like a tension clip, and it hooks onto this little shaft, this blue anodized shaft, and it seems to be stuck now on one side. But let's see. This is a first for me. I've never seen anything quite like this before. So I'm going to go ahead and try to attempt to remove the whole worm shaft assembly. So what I liked about this is that the worm shaft, or the line guide, sorry, is right in the front and not underneath, because usually to get to the pawl you have to come underneath, and it's a little bit of a pain in the butt to get to. But this one is really easy to access, and all you do is unscrew the pawl cap, and it looks like there's nothing on the inside of this, but there is one brass washer there, so please pay attention to that, don't lose it. And if I can go ahead and get my forceps underneath, and it does appear that it fell out, so that's good, and I didn't lose it. That's a plus. The pawl is on the inside, so I'm going to go ahead and get that out, and it does appear that this has been lightened. So they took out some material on the middle of the pawl, and let me see if I can see if this is steel. No. So if this is steel, it probably is not ferromagnetic. It doesn't look like it's aluminum though. It's very shiny if it is. Maybe it's polished aluminum. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what this material is. So I'll go ahead and reach out to the manufacturer and see if I can't get some answers on what that might be. But I'm going to go ahead and remove the C-clip on this side. And let me see if I can use a flat head to do this one. Maybe not as easy. I think the security clip still is a good tool to have. It does appear that, yep, it does appear that there is a washer underneath. Go ahead and set this C-clip here. There is one washer underneath, and the worm shaft should just slide out somehow. Aha, there we go. So it appears indeed that our worm shaft right here only has one bearing, and that is on the handle side, or the main gear side, and that this cover is probably tension fit inside this frame. So it does appear that there is another rod here, probably to give a little more structural rigidity to this reel. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for the teardown. I don't really want to, take this shaft out because it seems like it's pretty press fit on this side of the front cover. I do want to note that the line guide is fairly impressive. So let me go ahead and actually put this all back together. The line guide itself is actually quite impressive, and the reason why I say that is because, and this is all in the the marketing material brochure that they give you with this, but not only is it easy to access, I don't know if that's on there, but it has like a little opening. I don't know if you guys can see that. It has a little opening on the bottom, and that's supposed to be for like shedding water, which is kind of an interesting thing. I mean, interesting attention to detail like that. That makes this reel seem very premium. I also wanted to note that I didn't in the other video that the clutch button is so well. There's like such little slop and tolerant, or yeah, the tolerance is so good. It feels really premium. I do wish that this was actually a little bit better of a material and kind of a different motif. It's kind of like a tropical leaf motif. Okay, let's do a bearing count. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got 5. We've got 6, 7. We've got 8. We've got 9. We've got 10, and we've got 11. So indeed, there are 11 ball bearings in this reel. And I gotta say, doing the teardown, I think this is a super impressive reel. The tolerances are really good. The machining looks absolutely amazing. But the internals of this reel are very impressive to me. It is a very well-made reel. I am kind of curious about the longevity of some of the, I guess you could call them kind of consumable components like bearings. But the tolerances of everything else, the main gear looked really well machined. The internals look really well machined. I really liked that the anti-reverse bearing is very well friction fit into the side plate or the main gear cover, the engine cover. The worm shaft and worm guide looked very well designed. You can see here that it's very easy to access it from the front. So if you ever needed to, access your pawl or you lubricate it or anything like that, really, really nice design there. This little window for lubrication is also a very nice touch because you can access it from the outside. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Again, thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. This is kind of what the channel is all about. Teardowns and reviews in a very unbiased manner as much as possible. And if you liked the video, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you didn't, you go ahead and give it a thumbs down. That still helps me kind of gauge what you guys like out there, because you guys are what matters about this channel. Anyways, again, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate each and every one of you, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.